Hi everybody, welcome back. So today we are starting our short story. So I decided to read I Remember the Alamo. I love this book. I read it as a little girl and I wanted to introduce it again. So let's begin. I Remember the Alamo by D. Ann Love. Chapter 1, Gone to Texas. One afternoon toward the end of October, Jessie McCann looked up from her family's wash to see a horse and rider coming through the trees. She dropped the stick she was using to stir the clothes and raced along the dirt path, bursting into her cabin, flushed and breathless. "Mama, Yancey, Pa's coming." Mama looked up from her spinning wheel. "I don't think so, dear. It's too soon." Yancey came in, his arms loaded with firewood. At 15, he was taller than Pa and almost as strong. He grinned at Jessie. "What happened? I heard you yelling clear out to the woodpile." "Pa's coming. I saw him riding up the road." "See who it is, son," Mama said calmly. Yancey looked out. "It is Pa. Come on, Jess." Pa rode up, his saddlebags bulging. He leaped from the saddle and swept Mama into the air. "Luther!" she cried. "Put me down." But she was laughing right along with him. "What on earth are you doing back here? I thought you were going to Smathers Bluff." Plans changed. Let's go in and I'll tell you about it. Where's Tad?" "Here I am, Pa." Tad launched himself onto Pa's arms. "I thought you weren't coming back till Saturday. What did you bring me, a silver whistle?" "Something better than a whistle," Pa said, setting Tad down. "Is there any coffee, Ruth? I'm plump wore out." While Mama made coffee, Jessie cooked Pa's eggs just the way he liked them. They all sat down at the table while Pa ate, all but 2-year-old Callie, who was sound asleep in her crib. When his plate was clean, Pa pushed it away. Mama poured more coffee. Then Pa said, "Guess who I met on the way to Smathers Bluff?" "Davy Crockett," Tad said. "No," Pa said, his brown eyes full of laughter. "Guess again." "President Jackson?" Jessie guessed. "Oh, I hope not," Mama said. "Not with you in those tatty old clothes, Luther." Pa laughed. "Andy Jackson's not much for appearance himself, Ruth. But no, I didn't see Old Hickory." He tipped his chair back. "On the way to Smathers Bluff, I met 2 Texans. Finest fellows you'd ever want to meet. They say folks down there are about ready to declare their independence from Mexico, and there's thousands of acres of prime land to be had at bargain prices." Jessie shot Yancey a sideways look. "I know what you're thinking," Pa said, "but these fellows said Texas is chock full of great rivers and green rolling prairies, not rocky like Kentucky. Why, that land is so rich a man can practically plow it with his bare hands. Just think, Ruth, what we could do with a farm like that." "But we're settled here now," Mama said. "The children have school and you have your shop." "A tinker's shop," Pa scoffed. "You may think that's nothing, but folks depend on you all the time," Mama declared. "Who would fix their tools and clocks if it wasn't not for you?" "Well, from now on, they'll be depending on the Hallett fellow from over on Alton's Creek." "What?" "It was getting to me, Ruth, sitting there every day fiddling with broken-down tools while the whole big world was rushed by outside. So after those 2 Texans rode off, I went and talked to Hallett. You know he's been after me to sell for more than a year now." "Oh, Pa!" Jessie cried. "You didn't!" "Yes, ma'am, I surely did." Pa's laughter rumbled like the mountain thunder. "Put everything I wanted into my 2 saddlebags and came straight home. This time next week, we'll be halfway to Texas." "Texas!" Tad jumped up, tipping his chair over. Callie woke up and began to cry. "I'll get her, Mama." Jessie was so angry she was glad for any reason to leave the table. Why couldn't she have been born into a normal family? She must be the only girl in Kentucky, probably in the whole world, who had moved 3 times before turning 12 years old. First, they'd move into the cabin on Washburn Creek. She was only 4 then and too young to go to school, but she had Yancey for her playmate. He was 8 back then and knew a million ways to have fun. Later, there was Tad and her sister Mary, before Mary got sick and went to heaven. Jessie didn't remember much about how their cabin looked. What she did remember was the feelings. Happiness, listening to Mama singing hymns as she spread the wash out to dry on the lilac bushes. Fears when afternoon thunder rolled around the mountains and shook their cabin the way a hound dog shakes a rabbit. Worried the years Pa crops failed and there was no food to eat. After that, they moved to Gutter's Cap. Pa said life was better there anyway. It was, and it wasn't. There was a school, and Jessie went there with Yancey when she was 7. That was good, but then Pa started a turkey farm. Everybody else raised apples or tobacco, cows or pigs, but not Pa. He said turkeys were the future and would make them rich. The other children in Miss Hunter's school made gobbling sounds every time Jessie or Yancey stood up to recite. They flapped their arms like turkeys' wings and called Yancey Turkey Boy instead of his rightful name. When the turkey sickened and died, Pop loaded the wagon and they moved here to the cabin on Hickory Creek. Pa opened a shop in the settlement down the river. Once a month, he rode through the neighboring towns, stopping to fix whatever had broken since his last trip. Now he was plucking his whole family up again, like weeds in a garden, and carting them off to Texas, all because some strangers he'd met on the road. "Come here, Callie," Jessie crooned. "Don't cry." At the sight of her sister, Callie's tears stopped. Holding out her chubby arms, she grinned at Jessie, showing her tiny teeth. "Play, Jessie." "Not now," Jessie said. "Pa's talkin'. Come sit with me." But Callie squirmed out of Jessie's arms and raced around the table to Yancey's chairs. "You play," she ordered, a tiny golden princess in a rumpled pinafore. Pa scooped her up and tossed her into the air until Callie squealed. "Here's my girl. Give your old papa a kiss." Callie planted a noisy kiss on both of Pa's cheeks. He tucked her in his lap and went on talking. "It won't be an easy trip," he said, "but it's the opportunity we've been waiting for, the chance of a lifetime. How many men get to start up a brand new country and buy themselves a fine farm in the bargain? I'm telling you, Ruth, this is the answer to our prayers. I can feel it in my bones." He looked around the table at all of them, his eyes shining. This was Pa the way Jessie knew him best, full of laughter and impossible dreams. Yancey said, "Everybody says the Texans will have to win a war with Mexico first." "Maybe so, son. Seems General Santa Anna is determined to beat them down. They need all the help they can get." "Is it true Davy Crockett is going to help them too?" Tad asked. "That's what I hear." Pa blew on his coffee to cool it. "The way I see it, freedom is the only thing in this old world worth fighting for. If the Texans go to war with Santa Anna, I mean to be a part of it." Dismay flickered across Mama's face before her smile slid into place. "If you think that's best, Luther," she said quietly. "Mama!" Jessie cried. "How can you think of giving up everything just like that? It's purely scandalous, if you ask me." "Scandalous?" Pa said. "Jessie, girl, how did so many big words get inside one 11-year-old's head? That's what I want to know." Then he whirled Mama around in the cabin in a wild dance, laughing as his reckless laugh that Jessie partly loved and partly didn't. When at last they stopped, Pa said, "To work. There's plenty to be done if we're to leave tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Mama said. "Luther, it's impossible. I've got apples drying and oh my land, Jessie, I'll bet the washpot has boiled bone dry." "Forget the apples," Pa said. "Never mind that old washpot. We've got more important things to do." "We still have to eat, Pa," Yancey reminded him. "We'll forage for food," Pa said, spreading his arms wide. "It'll be an adventure." Then he began giving orders. "Jessie, go see about that washpot. Put the fire out if it's not out already and hang the clothes up. They'll be dry by tomorrow morning. Yancey, get those boards out of the tool shed and we'll make some crates. There are plenty of nails in my saddlebags." "What can I do, Pa?" Tad asked. "Keep an eye on Callie. Don't let her wander off." "Taking care of babies is a girl's job," Tad said. "I'm 9 on to 8 years old, practically grown up. I shouldn't be doing a man's work." Pa's mouth curved into a smile. "I reckon you at that, but put Callie in a crib, then help Yancey with those boards." Jessie worked far into the night, helping load the wagons with dishes and quilts, coils of rope, buckets and shovels, candles and soap. Then she packed the first 3 things she loved the most in all the world. First, the rag doll with the china blue button eyes and yellow yarn hair that Mama made her for last Christmas. Then the shiny red hair ribbons Pa bought her last spring from the general store in Smathers Bluff. And last, the book on stories she won at school that year for learning more new words than anybody else, even Yancey. When morning came, Pa and Yancey saddled their horses. Mama settled herself on the wagon seat with Callie and Jessie. Tad hopped up and Mama flicked the reins. "Bye, Hickory Creek," he cried. "We're gone to Texas." Gone to Texas. Chapter 2. The Travelers. Pa and Yancey rode their horses in front. Mama followed with the wagon. Sometimes Jessie sat beside Mama, holding Callie on her lap. Sometimes she walked with Tad behind the wagon, fitting her footsteps into the hard brown ruts other wagons had made. For 3 days they followed the river. At night they camped along the bank and Yancey and Pa caught fish for their supper. When it was time to sleep, Mama made their beds inside the wagon. Curled beneath the blankets, Jessie watched the fat, cold moon rising above the trees. Its light turning the silent fields into blue. Eerie, Jessie decided, was the word that described it best. On the afternoon of the 4th day, Pa said, "The road ahead looks mighty rough. I'd better drive the wagon." He climbed up beside Mama and smiled at Jessie. "You can take my horse if Yancey will ride along beside you." Yancey adjusted the saddle on his own horse, then handed Diablo's reins to Jessie. "He's got a stubborn streak," he warned. "Don't let him run away with you." Jessie scratched the readied insect bites on her arm and fished a dry leaf from her hair. She was bone-tired and already sick of beans, and more beans. "I wish Diablo would run away with me," she muttered. "I wish he'd take me clear back to Hickory Creek. I'd rather sleep in a cave and eat berries than go to Texas." Yancey grinned and swung into his saddle. "Complaining won't change one thing. Are you coming or not?" Leaving her doll to keep Callie company, Jessie took up Diablo's reins and settled herself in Pa's worn saddle. They nudged the horses into an easy canter and soon left the wagon far behind. As sunset came, the air cooled and Jessie shivered inside her dress. "Jessie," Yancey's wide green eyes rested on hers, "you look sadder than a caged-up coonhound on Saturday night. Are you all right?" "I guess so." "Hey, do you think we can't see when something's bothering you?" "It's not something," she blurted. "It's everything." "Whoa!" Yancey halted his horse and grabbed Diablo's reins. "What's the matter?" Jessie started to cry. It was as if the whole lifetime of tears suddenly wanted out of her. She leaned into Diablo's warm neck and sobbed as if her heart would never mend. Yancey dismounted, then gently lifted her off Diablo. "Let's have it. Whatever it is, it can't be all that bad." So she told him how she was mad at Pa for dragging them clear to Texas, how she dreaded having to start over in a new place, how the only thing in the whole world she wanted was one single place to call home. "I hate being in this family," she cried. "We live like gypsies. I pretend we're ordinary, but anyone with one eye and half sense can see we're not. Why can't we just be like other people?" Yancey grinned his lopsided grin. "Because we're McCanns. Pa is the most unordinary person in all of Kentucky, and, good or bad, he's our Pa. We're stuck with him." He wiped her face with his bandana. "How's that? Better?" "I suppose." And truly, telling Yancey her troubles did make her feel better. It always had. Yet her problems still lay there, heavy as lead. "But Yancey, whenever people see me in town, I hear them whispering, 'There goes that McCann girl. What scheme will that Pa of hers think of next? Why can't Pa ever settle down?'" "I'm not exactly sure," Yancey said. "Seems like Pa is always expecting more out of life than life wants to give back, and he can't stand to be disappointed." "Doesn't he care how people talk about us?" Jessie asked. "Remember when we went to Riverton to help him unload those turkeys, and those 2 old women were gossiping about Pa's gambling? I was so embarrassed I wanted to disappear clean off the face of the earth, and Mama was so purely mortified she wouldn't go to church the next week for fear that people would talk." "I remember." "I didn't let them beat me, though," Jessie said. "I told them exactly what I thought about their waging tongues. bumptious old crows. Yancey grinned. I remember that too. But Jess, you can't keep blurting out whatever comes into that head of yours. When you go around speaking your mind and using all those $10 words, it makes people talk. Why, half the time I don't understand what you're talking about. That's not true one bit, Jessie declared. You're the smartest boy I've ever met. Why, I get the cobbly-wobblies just thinking about what would happen if you weren't around to save us from Pa's foolishness. Pa's a little strange sometimes, but I'm proud of him for wanting to make a better life for us, even if he has to fight the Mexicans to do it. Will there be a fight, Yancey? Volunteers are pouring in from all over Georgia and Tennessee. If Santa Anna picks a fight, the Texans won't have to face him alone. I can just picture Pa now, Jessie said, standing right smack in the middle of the whole Texan army, throwing out his arms and yelling, "It'll be an adventure!" It's too soon to worry about it. Yancey shaded his eyes. Looks like we've got company. 2 men walking up the dusty trail, their harvest sacks clanking. Mount up, Yancey said quietly. We'd better go get Pa. They rode the wagon back to Yancey and reported on these 2 men. Splendid, Pa said. I was getting lonely out here by myself. It'll be good to have some company, catch up on the news. Quickly, Mama wiped Callie's sticky fingers and ran her comb through the baby's yellow curls. Then she poured water over her comb and raked it through Tad's hair. Tad scowled. What's the matter, Taddy? Yancey asked, grinning. You look like you've just eaten a bowl of coddle burrs. Just look at my hair, Tad cried. Now it's all wet, for gosh sakes. It's not like we're going to a wedding or a funeral or nothing. It's just 2 old men, and they probably stink worse than a rotten skunk. First impressions are important, Mama said. Her gaze rested on Jessie. What's wrong with you? Your eyes are all red. I'm all right, Jessie said. Well, straighten your braids and wipe the dust off your shoes. Yancey, your shirt is unbuttoned. And stand up straight. You're bowed over like a willow in a hurricane. Pa chuckled. Stop fussing, Ruth. I'll bet these men are used to seeing folks with a bit of dust on 'em. Mama squinted into her looking-glass. Mercy, I look a fright. No, you don't, Pa said, kissing her cheek. You're the prettiest woman in the state of Kentucky, maybe in the whole darn country. You're just hoping I'll drive that wagon for you again tomorrow. She smiled at him in the looking-glass. Jessie rolled her eyes. All Pa had to do was say a few surgery words and Mama acted positively sappy. Soon the 2 travelers appeared. They were dressed in rough clothes and weighted down with harvest stacks and powder horns and hunting knives. Each of them carried a Kentucky rifle. How do, Pa said, sticking out his hand. McCann's the name, from Hickory Creek, Kentucky. Heidi, said the man who spoke, had side whiskers, a dirty gray beard, and squinty eyes that made it hard to tell the color. When he took off his battered hat, his bald head shone like a new coin. Folks call me Curly. Ain't that a hoot? Pa laughed, and Curly jerked his thumb at his companion. This here's Willie. He's ugly as sin, but harmless. He don't talk much. We're fixing to have a bite of supper, Pa said. It ain't much, but you fellows are welcome to join us. Much obliged, Curly said, setting down his pack. We're a mite worn out. While Mama hurried to add more potatoes to the rabbit stew, Jessie took some leftover biscuits from a tin pail, but Willie preferred his own food and his own dishes. From his harvest stack, he brought out a hunk of dried venison and a corn pone that banged on his own plate like a rock. When the meal was ready, Curly tucked his bowl of stew as if he hadn't eaten in 100 years. Between bites, he talked to Pa. Headed for Texas, are you? Sure am. I hear the land is prime and practically free for the asking. From what I hear, old Santa Anna aims to keep Texas for himself, Curly said. You may have a harder time claiming that land than you think. His eyes swept over the McCanns, specifically with a pack of kids along. Are these all yours? They are. Pa introduced them all in turn. And this beautiful woman is my wife, Ruth. Curly bobbed his bald head. Pleased to meet your acquaintance, ma'am. Then he said to Pa, How are you aiming to get there? We'll take a steamer from Louisville to New Orleans. From there, a schooner to Valcasso. Velasco, he said, stroking his beard. I've heard of it, but I don't reckon you'll be farming that land. From what I understand, it's all swamp. Willie laughed. an unpleasant sound that reminded Jessie of a squealing wagon wheel. "Ha ha, maybe you could raise mosquitoes or snakes. I bet snakes would grow up real good there." Mama's face paled and her expression stayed smooth as stone. Serene, Jessie thought. Mama shifted Callie onto her other knee. "If Velasco doesn't work out, we'll have to go somewhere else. Surely all of Texas isn't a swamp." Jessie's face ached with the effort of keeping her smile pasted on, pretending to be excited. Scrambling to her feet, she ran toward the river. It all happened so fast, as if a bolt of lightning had hit their cabin and changed everything. One day she was going to school, doing sums and practicing for the Christmas play, and the next she was on this endless, dusty journey to a place full of mosquitoes and snakes. "Jess, honey," Mama's footsteps rustled in the dead grass. "What?" "I know you're upset. This trip has been hard on all of us, but we have to trust Pa to do the right thing." "Why? He never has before." "Jessie Elizabeth McCain." The look in Mama's eyes was hot enough to fry bacon. "I haven't spanked you since you were 3 years old, but if you don't start behaving better when your father is concerned, I will whip you within an inch of your life." Jessie was stunned. Never had she heard Mama sound so cross. "But Mama—" "Hush for once and listen to me. I know you didn't want to come. Neither did I. Don't you think that I worry about it every single minute? Then why didn't you tell Pa no? He wouldn't have come without you." Jessie stared into the darkness. Settling herself on the grass, Mama wrapped her arms around her knees. "Maybe I should have refused. But all this life your Pa's searched for some way to make this mark on this world. Somehow, nothing he's ever tried has worked out the way he planned." Jessie remembered the failed farms, the turkey experiment, the dusty tinker shop, and his tangled of broken tools. "When he's got it in his head to join with the Texans, I didn't have the heart to stand in his way," Mama said. "Disappointment is like a sickness, Jess. It can bring a person down quick as a fever. Do you understand?" Jessie wasn't just what Mama meant, but said, "I guess so." "So will you try to be patient with Pa? If not for his sake, for mine." What choice did she have? It was a long way to Texas. Pa said it would take at least 8 days once they reached Louisville. That seemed like a long time to be walking around feeling mad. "I'll try." Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and end it there. So in a couple of days we will start back up again. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next episode.